With last weekend's divisional playoff round for the NFL, there was one thing that stood out, and that was coaches versus coaches. Unless it's Broncos and Bills, and let's face it, it's Sean Payton versus Josh Allen, which has already proven true. Now, for all the teams that were looking for a head coach, like the Giants and the Titans and the Browns and the Raiders and the Cardinals, among the others, this was an instructional weekend. This was a weekend where you could be able to really dig deep and figure out what is it my team's missing. It's not some, wild-haired idea of what a head coach could be. It's not hiring a special teams guy to be your head coach. No, this is what does my team need in order to succeed? And we all have learned, yes, it is coaching. You need a head coach. Now, out of the 10 openings since then, now that Mike Tomlin has stepped down, let's look at just kind of the foray of the coaches that have been hired so far. The Giants, they have hired John Harbaugh. Not real hard to tell why they did that. There's one word for that. It's pedigree. He did it for so long in Baltimore. He's won a ring. He knows how to do this. And let's see what he can do with Jackson Dart and company with the Giants. The Falcons, who I think hired probably the dark horse of the coaching cycle in Kevin Stefanski. When you get a two-time coach of the year for the Cleveland Browns, no less, a two-time 11-win season winner with the Browns. He did this with the Browns. And the Haslams fired him because of regression from what they saw on the roster was a competent roster. Well, Jimmy and D, let me save you the hassle here. It was not a competent roster. The moment that you drafted Dylan Gabriel and Shador Sanders, you threw all caution to the wind and all competence to the side and decided that, yeah, this is going to be a whatever team for however long we own it, and we don't care. Now, Kevin Stefanski in Atlanta with Bijan and with Drake London, man, watch out. Watch out for that team. The Falcons are a sneaky team for 2026 and beyond. And the Dolphins, Jeff Hafley, coached under Kyle Shanahan, coached under Matt LaFleur. Now, he's a defensive guy, but the Dolphins, they need a defense. And more importantly, the Dolphins need an identity. They haven't had an identity the entire time Mike McDaniel was a coach there. And if they can establish an identity with a guy who says, I'm a defensive guy, I will hire an offensive guy who can handle the offense, but our identity is going to be smash mouth football on the defensive side. We are going to crush people with the pass rush. We're going to crush people to death when it comes to having to go 3 and out. That's their identity now. And then the Titans, Robert Saleh. You might say, really, a quick turnaround? Wasn't that guy just fired? Yeah, he was fired from the Jets. That's like saying, oh, what? That guy got hired to be the chef at a fancy restaurant? Yeah, well, he was at the Waffle House, and he didn't like the way they were making the eggs. So Robert Saleh is now the Titans head coach. And let's not forget, he worked under Dom Capers. He was also under Gus Bradley and Pete Carroll during the time of the Legion of Boom. So this is a guy who understands how to develop a defense, and the Titans are well on their way to reforming that terrible, terrible defense that they had last season. And then we get to the Ravens. The Ravens just hired, right before we came on, just announced they hired Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator for the LA Chargers. And let's not forget, this is a guy, he's sort of a legacy hire. He started his coaching career in Baltimore 9 years ago. And then who is he coaching under at 2 different stops for the last 3 years? Oh, yeah, the brother of the guy who was just fired. That's a lot like saying, oh, yeah, I'm a vegan, but you call meat late at night and say, hey, does meat ever think about me? So, you move on from John. You hired Jim's protege. Okay, I get it. Whatever. Yeah, you're not really masking anything. I will say this. I will give one opinion for one team that still has a head coaching opening for them to hire, and that's the Bills. I think the Bills should target Mike LaFleur, the OC of the Los Angeles Rams. This guy clearly comes from the McVay coaching tree. Who doesn't want a McVay guy? And Mike LaFleur has an offense that absolutely is so disciplined. You watch that game against the Bears in the snow last weekend, and you come away colored impressed with the way that offense played. They don't drop passes. They don't make mistakes. They're extremely efficient. And Mike LaFleur, he loves the 13 personnel. So why not do the one thing where you have James Cook in the backfield and you highlight 3 tight ends? It's not like you got a receiving room that can catch the football. So you got one wide receiver on the field that, hey, you know what? Josh Allen can toss it to him, whatever. They're covering with the big guys. It allows Josh Allen an opportunity. The play breaks down. Take off, big boy. Go ahead. But my point being is that as we are going through this coaching cycle, and as the Giants and the Falcons and the Dolphins and the Titans, they've all hit. They have all hit. These teams will be drastically different, if not next year, the year after, because they have done their research. They have gone after guys who come from extensive trees, and they have targeted guys for the side of the football that they want to highlight. If you're the Dolphins and the Titans, that's the defense. If you're the Giants, you just want a coach there to help coach up everybody around them. And if you're the Falcons, you hired an underrated offensive genius to help your team. And by God, do not tell me Arthur Blank is not just biting his lips now thinking this is the time we're going to win a championship before I die. Guys, this is the Friday Junior edition of your favorite podcast, Box Scores and Bourbon.
Look at the box scores.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball, box scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
All right,
right.
JB. Welcome back. Welcome back. Let's make sure everything's... Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to another episode. As per usual, grab yourself 2, maybe 3 fingers of your favorite drink and partake in the consumption as we jump into some sports. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
I'm going with like 3 fingers today, which is very generous of me. Well, the coaching search is quite the conversation. I feel like we could dive into for an hour because I think, was it a third of the league was hiring a coach at some point?
Yeah.
This hiring cycle, whatever you want to call it. But we will get right to the point on these coaching conversations. First off, I have a little bit of a reservation with one of your takes, so I want to address
Stefanski?
that. Yeah. Maybe you saw my facial expressions as you were talking about this.
I did.
Kevin Stefanski, a sneaky hire?
I think so. You look at all last year and even at the tail end of the season, all the talk was Bijan Robinson. Dijon Mustard Robinson, and now his entire career was being wasted because he can't find a coach that can actually coach the team up for consistent success.
Sure.
And then you have a receiver in Drake London. You got a guy in Kyle Pitts who, look, I mean, despite what you might think of him,
he has the weapons. But guess what? My personal opinion, he didn't have, or he wasn't missing weapons in Cleveland either. They had Judy, they had Chubb, they had good offensive weapons at some point during his tenure.
And he won Coach of the Year twice. He went 11-5. He won 11-6. He won a playoff game in Cleveland.
Sure.
This is not Kevin Stefanski was not the problem in
No,
Cleveland.
well, let me stop you
Especially
there.
the last 2 years. The last 2 years, he was not the problem. Not at all.
I have an issue with that because the one thing that kept sinking the Cleveland Browns really has been sinking the Cleveland Browns for the last,
Quarterback
30,
play.
40 years, a quarterback. Kevin Stefanski was in charge of finding, for all intents and purposes, in charge of finding a quarterback.
That wasn't his job. That was not his
he
job.
went-
It was his job to work with what he had.
Sure, but
But
you're
it
telling
wasn't.
me,
But he wasn't even in charge of who got traded and who got
but
drafted.
you're telling me that he couldn't create at least a mediocre quarterback out of the 20 that he had under his tenure, and now you're going to put him in Atlanta where Penix is out for the year most likely, and you're going to he doesn't have a quarterback now. I feel like he's maybe in this a very similar situation that he was in Cleveland, where the quarterback is going to be the question.
Look,
he just has tools on the offense.
If I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm looking back in 2023 when Joe Flacco won Comeback Player of the Year award for Cleveland. And I'm thinking, hey, maybe Stefanski's got something up his sleeve to help me with whatever I have left in the tank.
Maybe.
And I'm not going to blame Stefanski for any of the shenanigans, any of the roster shenanigans that happened in Cleveland. Cleveland, the Browns have proved they cannot evaluate players, a.k.a. Baker Mayfield, nor can they evaluate coaches, a.k.a. Kevin Stefanski. You fired one of the only two coaches who had multiple double-digit wins in a season. What? Only two. And you fired him because he couldn't make gold with the crap that you gave him.
He couldn't, but
I'm sorry, thing is, not everyone's King Midas. All right, we're not going to make silver or gold with everything we touch.
My thing is, he couldn't even make a mediocre quarterback play. Like, he couldn't, I understand the quarterbacks that he had around him were not all-star players, but they were still good enough to be in the NFL, and you couldn't even get mediocre play out of them. At some point, that falls on the head coach.
That one's not on Stefanski.
20 times it's not on Stefanski. Eventually, it falls on the head coach.
20 times? Is that many quarterbacks they had the last season?
I don't know how many quarterbacks he had in his tenure. He had a lot of quarterbacks in his tenure, but my point is, you couldn't find one quarterback. You couldn't make do with at least one.
Stefanski is a talented coach. He's a talented coach, and the Falcons lucked out in the fact that they were able to grab him. And you look at he's the coaching grandson of Mike Shanahan by way of Gary Kubiak. So, and Mike Shanahan's got one of the more extensive coaching trees in the NFL today. Stefanski knows what he's doing. And I'm a Saints fan through and through.
Yes,
and it makes me sick to my stomach that the Falcons did something competent here and hired a guy that could actually make the Falcons successful. And, I'm throwing up in my mouth just saying it.
Here's the thing, though. The Falcons tied for third in their division. They were one win away from winning that division.
The Saints were one win out from winning the division. That was a terrible division. Okay,
exactly my point.
You sit there saying they were third. They were one win away, as if the Bucks and Panthers were powerhouses. No,
that's my point. No, that's my point. The division isn't hard to win. It's not hard to win that division. So that's my point. You could have kept doing or gotten better with the coaching staff you had in place already. I just don't see Stefanski being a huge upgrade.
I'm looking at Atlanta. And Arthur Blank has wanted to win a ring before he dies.
Sure,
he's not delusional like Jerry Jones, where he wants to win the most rings as an owner before he dies. Okay, Jera, good luck with that. Arthur Blank wants to win one championship, and Kyle Shanahan ruined that for him in 2016. So, look, we will – look, not 2018. And so, look, this is an opportunity for Arthur Blank to say, look, here's an offensive-minded guy. Here's a guy that could come in and all the pieces that we have in play, all of the pieces. Here's a guy that can help us get over the top. This is a guy that won 11 games with Joe Flacco as a quarterback at the end of Joe Flacco's career. I don't care if Kevin Stefanski calls Phillip Rivers and says, hey, before you accept that job with Indy, why don't you come over here and be the quarterback in Atlanta,
Oh,
and we can have the quarterback battle of the grumpy old men and Kirk Cousins and Phillip Rivers. And they have, why we're at it, bring in Aaron Rodgers, see what he can do. Either way, Kevin
Good.
Stefanski's going to do.
You're
I
starting
honestly
to
think
sound like
this is a under the radar hire.
I
Under
think
the radar.
you're making it sound like the Falcons are about to become the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NFC. But I'm just curious what quarterback
if
you're
they're
going
the
to do.
Pittsburgh Steelers, the NFC, I wouldn't mind that because that means 9 wins and then out in the first round of the playoffs. That would be fantastic. I meant just like if I'm Arthur Blank and I'm looking at the spectrum of the guys available, I'm thinking I can probably bring in Stefanski, who can probably do a lot with the offensive weapons I have.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm not taking away from the weapons. I'm just saying the biggest relationship, the strongest relationship you need to have in your organization is the relationship between your quarterback and your head coach. And that one of those pieces, we're not sure who is going to be. The quarterback, we're not sure who is going to be.
And I trust Stefanski to figure that out.
I don't. That's my thing. I don't.
Okay. All right.
This isn't the Stefanski show, so let's move on to some of the other positions. You mentioned one position or one vacancy that is very intriguing to me, and that's the Bills vacancy, which first off, we said that the head coach for the Bills was in danger if they lost last week in the divisional round, which ended up happening for better or for worse. I don't think it necessarily should have been him that got fired for losing that game, but we're talking about vacancies. I think that's one of the most appealing vacancies out there, and I think the Bills should go and try trading for Mike Tomlin to get him with Josh Allen. That seems like a great pickup for the Bills and their head coaching vacancy.
And if that happens, then great. I mean, good for them. I honestly think that what Buffalo's trying to do is they're trying to move and shift to the offensive side of the ball. And you look at the guys that I guess the top 3 candidates so far are Brian Dable, former OC, Joe Brady, current OC, Mike McCarthy, a retread. So it looks like they're looking for offensive guys to bring out the best in Josh Allen and his offense. And I'm thinking, look, if you want to, and the reason you fired Sean McDermott is to inject some new life into this system. Inject some new life. So why would bringing a former OC inject new life? Why would promoting the current OC inject new life?
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that either.
Mike McCarthy going to do? If you're trying to win a ring, don't hire Mike McCarthy. So if you're looking at injecting new blood into this team and to bring out the best in Josh Allen, I tell you what, Mike LaFleur might be your best option.
Yeah, I mean, he is a good option.
That guy, because look, you're already saying Josh Allen's getting older. He's in it now. He's on the other side. He's getting the other side of 30 now. Okay, he's over there. You are trying your best to bring a ring and to have Josh Allen be a Super Bowl caliber winning quarterback. Why not get a guy who knows exactly how to do that, who's coached under a guy who has done exactly that? Mike LaFleur, I think, is if the Bills somehow were able to bring Mike LaFleur to Buffalo, that would be such a hire. That would be the hire of the offseason.
Yep. I mean, I think what's going on right now with the Steelers and the Bills is that both of those teams are waiting to see what goes on with the Rams as they continue to the playoffs. And both of those teams are going to take the respective coordinators. I think the Steelers are probably going to take the defensive coordinator. The Bills are probably going to take LaFleur as the offensive coordinator. Which I think
Shula would be perfect in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's like Colin Cowherd said, Pittsburgh is the team that goes on a first date and says, "Will you marry me?" and you're together for the next 15 years. I think Shula would be perfect in Pittsburgh. He's young enough, which also brings me to my next point. Why on earth are you interviewing Mike McCarthy?
Because they want
Why?
to reconnect him with Aaron Rodgers.
Who's even saying Aaron Rodgers is staying?
Well, I mean, the front office said that they're open to keeping Aaron Rodgers. That seems to be the reason that they would hire Mike McCarthy, because that's
Aaron
the
Rodgers
deal.
hasn't smoked his ayahuasca yet, so he's got to
That's true.
smoke that first. He's got to go into the deep woods of Venezuela, Kamchatka, wherever it is that he smokes, and then he's got to come out of his mud hut. You know, he's got to wipe the red dot off his head first, and then he's got to decide, hey, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So the Steelers, to wrap up that part of the conversation, the Steelers I think they're at the crossroads where they're looking, do we get a treaded coach that knows how to build a team as we go through this rebuild, or do we get a young coach and stick with them for the long run and let hopefully that our fourth hire in the last 40 years plays out as well as it previously did? I think that's what's going on. But you have hinted at something that I wanted to bring up as far as coaching, especially with the hire of Jesse Minter for the Ravens as a defensive coordinator going into the Ravens organization. And you've been mentioning how certain teams are looking at their head coaching vacancies and and considering, okay, let's bring in like an offensive minded coach to develop our offense because the league is moving in an offensive fashion. So it makes sense to like bring in a coach that kind of fits that mold. But here's my question to you, and we'll use the Ravens and Minter as the example. If you have a well-established offense and you have weapons in the offense, we can look at the Ravens, we can look at the Falcons, we can look at the Bills. All those teams have weapons on the offensive side. Would you, if you were GM, look for a head coach that can bring out the best of the offense by bringing an offensive-minded head coach? Or would you bring in a defensive coach to help catch up the defensive side since your offense is already pretty well built? Which trajectory would you, if you were the GM, which trajectory would you go down if you were hiring a head coach for your an organization that already has offensive weapons?
If I was the GM of the Baltimore Ravens, I would have done exactly what they did. I would have brought in a defensive guy who could continue to focus on, just like John Harbaugh did, highly disciplined and structured defenses, and then have that guy hire an OC who is compatible enough with the offense already in place. So a guy that can mesh with Lamar Jackson and it's the same reason Steve Bisciotti said that, yeah, Lamar Jackson will have a say, but he's got zero power. Steve Bisciotti knows exactly what he wants his identity of the team to be, and he wants it to be defense, just like it has been for the prior 16 years under John Harbaugh. So he brings in a defensive guy, great. Jesse Minter can be in charge of bringing in an OC that he knows can communicate and coalesce with Lamar Jackson, be able to get the most out of him. And I think that's the route that I know, I'm positive that's the route they took. That's the route I would have taken too.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the premise of my question, because it seems like teams kind of are hugging both sides, even though the general consensus is like offense is leading the league. So let's make sure we have strong offense and coaches that lead the offensive side of the ball. But like you mentioned the Miami and their hire of the defensive coordinator, and we're looking at John Harbaugh's replacement being a defensive head. Like it's interesting to me the way that teams are approaching this head coaching cycle for hiring, because it doesn't seem like there's a linear, like what we're looking for in the league approach to
honestly
hiring.
Like if you look at, so there's not, I hear what you're saying, there's not like every team wants to go after an offensive guy, every team wants to go after a defensive guy. I think what they're looking at are guys in the lineage, the coaching lineage that they come from.
Yeah.
So you look at Stefanski, Shanahan, Kubiak. You look at Jeff Hafley, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur. You look at Robert Saleh, Dom Capers, Gus Bradley with Pete Carroll, and Kyle Shanahan.
Yep.
You look at Jesse Minter, Jim Harbaugh. Like this is like, and then also John Harbaugh. Like he's come from a Harbaugh line, and so you look at these coaching hires so far, and they come from really strong coaching lineages.
Yep.
And I think that, and like I brought up in the first pitch, you look at the divisional round. It was Sean Payton versus Josh Allen, no coach there. You look at it was D'Amico Ryans versus Mike Vrabel. It was Mike McDonald versus Kyle Shanahan. It was Sean McVay versus Ben Johnson. You're looking at matchups where coaching was the highlight of this. Not that there weren't players or storylines from these teams, but the coaching was what the highlight was. And you look at the Giants, the Falcons, the Dolphins, the Titans, and now the Ravens. They went after guys who came from strong lineages. And that there were what? 3 retreads, John Harbaugh, Stefanski, and Saleh. Saleh, I don't really count because he was with the Jets. That was disastrous. Stefanski with the Browns, 2-time coach of the year with Cleveland. My goodness. Now he's in Atlanta. And John Harbaugh, name speaks for himself.
It's just John Harbaugh.
So, but you look at Hafley, you look at Minter, 2 defensive-minded guys.
Mm-hmm.
But who did they coach under? Where did they come from? And this is going to be instructional for any other team that wants to hire a head coach. Which I think it's interesting that all of the Bills, the Steelers, the Browns, the Raiders, the Cardinals still haven't hired a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why? Because there's 4 teams left in the playoffs. There's 4. We have, and this is a great segue. We have LA going to Seattle, and we have New England going to Denver.
Yep.
So you have 4 teams
4
loaded
vacancies.
with offensive and defensive staff who are capable of coaching another team based on their pedigree and their success the last this year, and then maybe going back to last year. I'm going to ask you this: out of the Rams and Seahawks, and then the Broncos and the Patriots, which team is to you is the most of a lock to make the Super Bowl?
Oh, that's easy. That's the Seahawks. Easy the Seahawks. There's no question about it. And we can. You talked about the head coaching trees and the lineage. You forgot to mention one tree that is growing very strong, and that is the Sean McVay lineage of whoever touches that.
I didn't forget that at all. I mentioned Shula and Mike LaFleur.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But
Yeah,
as far as teams looking at the hierarchies of like the lineage, Sean McVay is somehow becoming the god of whoever touches your coaching staff.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to hire that player.
Oh yeah,
and this is
he's
perfect.
the new Mike Shanahan / Andy Reid. Like if you came from those guys, that's the guy you want. That's Sean McVay now.
Yeah, it's great because he's like what 35.
He's like 13 next week, I think. Yeah, he's the biggest. He's a 16-year-old, the biggest biceps I've ever seen.
Well, let's use this as a segue to talk about this weekend.
Yes.
Are you ready for the Mike versus Sean weekend? I thought that was the most hilarious thing. That there's a Sean versus Mike on both sides of the conferences. There's Mike Vrabel against Sean Payton, Sean McVay
and Mike McDonald. I'm real excited. These are these are 4 teams that absolutely deserve to be in it. And if it wasn't for the absolute flawless play of the Rams last weekend, we would have both conferences 1 versus 2. But the Rams played an absolutely flawless game in the snow. Again, flawless? Buffalo, if you listen in, Mike LaFleur, hello. This will be a fun weekend. It'll be a really, really fun weekend. In the AFC, you got 2 legacy teams. You got Denver and New England. And my God, I know the folks in Foxborough they are just like, we're back, baby. We're back. And especially after Bo Nix goes down.
Oh yeah, they're licking their chops.
Taking a knee? What is that?
Not a knee. A scramble. It was a scramble.
This is Sean Payton's pennants for Bountygate. Sean Payton already paid his pennants for Bountygate.
Yeah, he got
missed the
suspended.
entire year, and the Saints went down the drain for 2 years, okay? I should know. I was there. So don't tell me this is his pennants. No, that was just a freak play. That was absolutely effing ridiculous.
Yeah, that
especially
sucks.
in the game when Bo Nix gets touched one time, and that was on a roughing the passer penalty by Bosa. It was the only time he got touched the entire game, and he tears his ACL taking a knee in order for Prater to line it up. And then you got on the NFC side, you got two NFC West teams, and I remember in our preseason talk, I said the one conference that you would not be able to tell who was going to come out on top. And what conference was that?
The division or conference?
I'm sorry, division.
Yeah, NFC. We talked about the NFC West.
Yeah, the NFC West was just absolutely loaded before the season started. This was before San Francisco lost all their starters for half the season.
Yeah.
And then San Francisco still went on to win 13 games.
Yeah, they still had a chance to get the number 1 seed. They went from 1 seed to like 6 seed. It was crazy. The NFC West was
weird.
Crazy.
But this has gotten this weekend to me has a Seahawk Bronco rematch written all over it.
Ooh. Really?
I think the Broncos can still come out on top in this.
I mean, I'm not saying there's no chance, but it is quite the mountain to climb for this to be. But here, I knew we were gonna hit on this, like what the chances of the Broncos making the Super Bowl are, and I kept thinking, like, it sucks that you lost your starting quarterback. But if you think about the play of the quarterback for the Broncos and Bo Nix, like it wasn't impressive quarterback play.
They are not where they are because of the quarterback play.
No, it wasn't. It's the defense that carried that team. Like Bo Nix had it in him to have one good drive, and it just happened that every 8 games, the last one good drive was like the game-winning drive of those one possession games that they won. But yeah, they did not get to the AFC Championship because of Bo Nix.
No,
and Stidham was in line to be a starter last year for the Broncos. Like it was just that Bo Nix had a better.
Stidham has been there before Bo Nix got there. Sean Payton has loved Jarrett Stidham. Sean Payton rather. Sean Payton is the reason that Jarrett Stidham is there for the long haul because he's the one that gave him that contract.
Yeah, he what was it? Day one of the free agency last year, 2 years ago. They signed him.
He's
because
I'm giving you a contract. I want you to stay. I believe in you. And believe me, like if Sean Payton says I believe in a guy, I'm gonna trust him.
I mean, yeah, he said like he came out and said Bo Nix be in the combine when Bo Nix was at the combine. He said Bo Nix has all the qualities that I would look for in a quarterback, and he didn't miss on Bo Nix. Bo Nix hasn't been like a mediocre quarterback, and if he has that kind of eye for Stidham, like the Broncos truly do have a chance to win this game. And I will say also this, Stidham is not a scrub for the coaching that has been around him. He was with the Patriots. I mean, you could say he was with the Raiders. That was a little bit of an off. But if you have the Patriots in your resume as far as coaching, and then you have Sean Payton coaching you for the last 2 years, and you had the Patriots before that, so you've had like 4 or 5 years of amazing head coaching or visibility on coaching staff. There has to be something there why he should have a chance of winning that game for them. This is going to be a very interesting matchup to watch, and I can't necessarily put my finger on how I feel about this game. And this goes back to both. There's a lot of things to take into consideration when you're looking at the AFC matchup. The Patriots had a very easy schedule to get to where they did.
They one of the easiest schedules in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think it was the easiest schedule making that a team has had in like the last 40 years, something ridiculous. And then they went and beat up the Chargers that had no offensive linemen. All their offensive linemen were ranked at the bottom of their respective position. And then you saw them go against the Texans last week, and you saw that game, and they beat up the Texans. But that was not.
But it also helped that Houston had 5 turnovers.
Yeah, exactly my point. It was a messy game. The weather was crap. CJ Stroud just
messy on both sides. New England had 3 turnovers.
Exactly my point. So, like, sure, they dominated that game, but it wasn't because they were dominating that game as a team. It was just that the other team was messier by 2 turnovers than you were on your side. So this is going to be a hard one to pick, because you want to trust that what the Patriots have been doing all year is going to keep working. But like we just said, the Broncos defense is what got them to where they are right now. The Broncos defense is going to beat up your quarterback too. And if your quarterback is sloppy with the ball, Stidham, all he has to do is put you in position to consistently get points and not lose you the game. They're not going to ask him to do anything miraculous, just like they never asked Bo Nix to do anything miraculous. It is a hard matchup to kind of figure out who's going to come out on top. But I mean, I can't argue with you saying the Broncos, because I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos found a way to win this game. It's just there's too many variables to be able to say, oh, without Bo Nix, the Patriots are the way better team. That is not something you can easily sit here and say.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Denver and Seattle. Which, speaking of Seattle, the Seattle Rams matchup. This is a huge matchup, and this is, for all the talk we give for Sean McVay, and justifiably so, the dude is a fantastic head coach. He can get anything out of anyone he hires on his staff. Just shine like gold, and he knows exactly how to train guys up. He knows exactly how to develop a game plan for a game. But I gotta tell you, this Seattle team, it is. We went into the playoffs wondering, is there even a consensus number one in the playoffs? Is there anyone that's really going to shine the brightest? And then all of a sudden, here comes Seattle after a week off. And they freaking destroy San Francisco. They absolutely just embarrassed them. It was ridiculous. That game they should have scored 2 extra touchdowns on San Francisco. It wasn't even as close as the final score was, and it was embarrassing enough.
Was the score 40-6?
Seattle should have had over 50 over San Francisco. It was ridiculous. And I'm looking at this Seattle-LA matchup, and I'm thinking, no matter how great of a game developer Sean McVay is, and he really is. He's one of the best in the NFL today. Mike McDonald to me, he has the team to beat. He has the team to beat.
For sure.
Because if you're looking at that defense, they got you. You're looking at the offense, they got you.
Yeah.
So, and the defense is going to beat you. And guess what? With Cherry on top, the offense, we're just going to get you too.
Yeah. I mean, there was less doubt out of all the teams in going into the playoffs, and even now, out of the 4 teams left in the playoffs, there was less questions about the Seahawks, about the status of the team. And just seeing what they did last week, just if there was a question about the Seahawks team, there's no longer.
They're gone now. They're gone.
There's no question. They answered every question 13 seconds into the beginning of the game. When they ran back that kickoff, like, they also have a really good special teams going. Okay,
they do.
They're a well-rounded team. And I mean, you asked me where we were transitioning into this segment, like who is the most solid lock to get into the Super Bowl? It has to be the Seahawks, because they have demonstrated it, but also because I keep looking at the Rams, and I've been hinting at this, or kind of putting the spotlight on this when it comes to the Rams. Their defense is struggling regularly against teams that know how to move the ball, and they showed it again against the Bears last week. That game should never have gone into overtime. They had it locked up, but their defense again allows the dumb mistakes, and they're just lucky that they have Stafford on the other side to pick up the pieces. And I said it.
Yeah,
I said, if you give the Stafford the chance to win you the game, he's gonna win you the game. Just don't defensively don't lose the game for him. They almost lost the game for him.
Yeah.
But Like again, I will say it again. That defense with the Rams makes me very, very nervous about
Yeah.
what is going to happen this weekend. I don't even know that I'm comfortable saying it's going to be a close game. I know every time they play, it is always a close game. I think historically they're like a 1-point difference and a 1-game difference with records in head-to-head. But just I don't trust that defense to be comfortable saying that the Rams have a really good chance. The Seahawks have to be like the lock to make the Super Bowl, and they have to be the lock to win the Super Bowl at this point because they're the most well-rounded team on all three phases of the game. It's just who's going to stop what they can do no matter what you bring out onto the field.
Yeah, and you look at the Chicago Rams ending before overtime, the end of regulation, the Bears treated the Rams defense like it was at Alabama fourth and gajillion against an Auburn defense. Like they just heaving the ball in the air. Oh, hey, Komet, there you are. Let me just throw you the football blindly, and we're gonna tie the game here.
Yeah, we're gonna bank on the defender running 10 yards up the field to try swatting the ball.
Yeah, and and if you're Seattle, and like Mike McDonald has done a great job with this defense, and not that anyone figured he wouldn't. He did a great job in Baltimore for all those years. So you look at the way that he has set up the Seattle defense and the way that Seattle's defense and their special teams, and that's one thing you got to take in mind. Great defensive-minded head coaches also dominate in the special teams. And so Seattle does that. And the way that Mike McDonald has the second and third side of the football playing, this is going to take Sam Darnold out of having to throw the ball downfield, which where does he struggle with downfield? With interceptions. So this is an opportunity for Seattle to really just control the ball on the defense and special team side, and then allow Sam Darnold hand the ball off to Kenneth Walker, throw a slant or throw a 10 and into JSN. Like just do only what you have to in order to move the ball downfield to score points. And this is I'm sorry, but I mean, to me, this is Seattle's year to win it all. So I just, if they play the Patriots, I think Seattle wins. If they play Denver, I think Seattle wins. I think they win this weekend, obviously. So this is really more instructional to see, okay, one, what game plan is McVay and Chris Shula really going to come up with? Chris Shula too, but also Mike LaFleur. What game plan are they going to come up with as a trio in order to counter what Seattle's going to give them? And two, on the AFC side, what are we going to see? What do we need to see from New England and Denver? And of course, we're not going to answer those questions now, but these are the questions to ask yourself if you believe, like I believe and you believe, this is Seattle's year to win it all. I mean, this is their year to lose it all. I mean, this is their year.
Yeah.
So,
and I think the one thing that I saw over this past week that kind of just puts a cherry on top of like this being the year for the Seahawks to win it, or they need to find a way to lose this if they're going to lose this opportunity. The other three teams, the last time they went to the Super Bowl, all of them have won. The one team that they have a bitter taste in their mouth from the last Super Bowl appearance is the Seahawks when they lost to the Patriots. The Patriots, the last Super Bowl they made to against the Seahawks, they won. Yeah. The Rams won the last Super Bowl that they made it to. Why am I blanking on the last name? Thank you. They all of those teams, the last time they made this to the Super Bowl, they won. Besides the Seahawks, they have that Super Bowl has been lingering in their the bad palate of their mouth since the last time they made the Super Bowl. Like they need to wash that out of their system, and just if they win the Super Bowl this year, they can finally move on from that damn Super Bowl that we could have had with Russell Wilson. Of what is it now, like 10 years ago, whatever. This has to be like one of the driving forces for that team to make it to the Super Bowl and win it, because they need to get that out of the system. They need to put that in the previous chapters and finally say the last Super Bowl that we went to was a win for our team.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so 30 seconds or less. Give us your final. We're transitioning. Give us your final thoughts on this year's college football season.
I think this college football season as a whole showed us that college football is finally in a good place where we don't necessarily have to bank on the top 4 teams to always be at the national championship. As much gripe as you want to have, or how much you want to have distaste for the transfer portal and the NILs and all the money that's being moved in college football, you can finally say that because of all these things that have happened, it is truly a league where you can really build a team, no matter what your legacy is of that team dominating in the sports. Every team, if you build a program right and you have obviously enough money in the background, you could win a national championship. I could not have sat here when we first kicked off this podcast 2 years ago and said every team could, if you have money to put behind your program, can win a national championship.
Yeah.
Indiana doing it in the most amazing way that you could imagine showed you that if you have a good program in place and if you have money to put behind it and you just have patience, you can win a national championship. I think that was my biggest takeaway from the season as a whole. Like, there is no lock-in. Georgia's, Alabama's, whatever other team, Ohio State, there's no lock-in that those teams are guaranteed to make the national championship or like the semifinal every single year, because it is truly finally, thank God, a league of parity where really, if you make it in, you have a good chance of making it to the national championship.
Yeah. My thoughts are, if you like parity and you like watching the NFL, the Indiana-Miami matchup was perfect for you. I loved it. I loved watching it. It was very NFL-like. But it also highlighted that the NCAA needs to make a lot of changes when it comes to college football. We need to make changes to the schedule. We need to make changes to how the playoff is played. We need to there needs to be a lot of introspection into figuring out, what do we want college football to become? Because I can guarantee you, expanding the playoff is not going to solve the woes or the issues, if you had any with this season, which, if you follow college football, you should have had plenty. Expanding the playoff is not the answer. We need to change the schedule. We need to change how we do the playoff before we do anything else. But my God, that college football that national championship was amazing. It was phenomenal. It was a masterclass in following your assignment and doing what you're supposed to do, which is how Indiana won that football game.
Yes.
And folks, with that concludes tonight's episode. Manny, what were you drinking?
I went and found me a bottle of something that I hadn't seen before, and you probably know it, but I got me a bottle of Tin Cup American whiskey.
I've heard of this.
Good.
I've never had it.
It's really good. It's 84 proof, so I know you probably would look the other way and scoff at it if you saw it, because 84 proof and nothing less than 100 goes down your palate. But it's good. It's very neat. It's very very easy to sip on, and it's very enjoyable. And it came with a little shot glass, which, if you ever get a little perk on top of it, gotta love that. What did you drink?
Okay. I was drinking some Wild Turkey rare breed I got for my birthday. That's right, folks. The resident old man is now 40 years old. He is in his 40s. I got to my 40s before Manny reached his 30s. So
No, that's not true.
before he reached his 20s. He's drinking underage, folks. Okay, don't call the cops.
Don't be saying that stuff. All right, JB.
But you can find us full episodes, Box Scores and Bourbon, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and as usual, additional content at BSB Sports 24 on TikTok, X, and Instagram. Until next time, folks, stay thirsty.
Cheers, everyone.